The wind was so strong that day. It carried sand, sound, and memory. Even though the gates of Manzanar were closed, I could still feel the stories lingering here. Stories of resilience, community, and quiet pride. Among the thousands of Japanese Americans who lived here was my uncle, Mas Ooka. He's one of the 3 boys in that famous photograph, standing by the barbed wire fence. It's surreal to think that my family once lived behind those lines, and that generations later, I would be standing on the other side, free to visit, to remember, and to reflect.
I just marvel at how the Japanese people really came together and really worked hard to just do their very best in those conditions. And I'm sure it was really hard for Uncle Mas. He was 8 years old when he went in. My heart goes out to him.
And what's really impressive to me was the internees and how they were very resourceful in doing what they did to make life as normal as possible. They had to develop their own schools. They had their own arts and crafts place, and they set up a basketball court, and so and they also had baseball games because there were like 10,000 people.
They grew gardens in the desert, making beauty bloom in the dust. It wasn't freedom, but it was community, and that community became their strength.
Before I met your family, I didn't know anybody that had been interned. None of our family had been interned anywhere, and so to go out here in an area that we actually live in and we get to see every single day, and then to understand the living conditions that they had to endure for 3 years. I think endure is the right word. Just a lot of the signs out there that kind of explain what happened in each area talked about how the Japanese Americans had to adapt to what was given to them, or to what they're being fed, or to just entertain themselves. And I think it just goes back to that word endure, because I think as a Japanese American, that generation had to go through a lot. And the example of that was getting to walk the grounds of Manzanar and seeing the conditions that they probably had to live in, because it was very harsh out there today. It was cold, yet it was hot, yet it was like 40-mile-an-hour winds in your face. They had a basketball court. I don't know how they could play basketball out there. They had a baseball field. It would have been impossible, just uncomfortable. And then on top of that, like the living conditions, the barracks that were supposedly comfortable for them didn't look very comfortable from what we saw. I have a lot of respect for that generation, and I think that getting to see a site like that makes you understand your heritage a little bit more and understand what actually happened historically. And that we don't ever want to repeat anything like that again. If you think about it, although it might have not seemed that way back then, it's cruel and inhumane the way they got put into that situation. So historically, it was great that we got to go and see that. I wish our kids were a little older to understand, but we now have something to take away and we can teach them.
The paper cranes at the monument reminded me of Sadako Sasaki and Peace on Your Wings. 2 different stories, one in Japan, one in America, but both carrying the same message: peace, compassion, and the hope that no one should ever suffer because of who they are. Watching my daughter run across the same desert, I thought about the children who once lived here, behind fences, dreaming of freedom. My uncle was 8 at the time. And I realized this is why we remember. We visit places like Manzanar to make sure their stories live on, to teach the next generation that strength, peace, and pride can come from even the hardest chapters of history. I'm proud to be Japanese American, proud of a people who turned hardship into community and pain into peace. Manzanar isn't just a story of what was, it's a lesson of who we can be. The wind at Manzanar still carries their voices, and if you listen closely, you can still hear their strength.